She thought she could have a black man removed from first class with just a few carefully chosen words, until he calmly reached into his pocket and flashed his FBI badge. Patricia Langford walked through Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, her designer carry-on rolling behind her. She had taken this route countless times before, Dallas to Washington, D.C., always in first class. Everything about flying felt familiar to her. Priority boarding, champagne, quiet conversations. She expected comfort and exclusivity. So when she reached her row and saw a black man in a sharp navy blue suit already seated beside her, she slowed down. He looked confident, focused on his laptop as if reviewing something important. Patricia's lips tightened. She set her bag down a little too firmly and sat, hiding her irritation. First class wasn't supposed to feel like this. The man beside her, Daniel Stokes, barely noticed her. He typed quietly, absorbed in his work. The glow from his laptop lit his face, calm and composed. He looked like he belonged there. Patricia wasn't so sure. She adjusted in her seat, her purse brushing his armrest. No reaction. She sat up straighter, expecting someone to notice. Then she leaned toward him slightly. "Excuse me," she said politely. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" Daniel didn't look up. "Yes." That was it. No explanation. Patricia cleared her throat and glanced around. A young flight attendant, Emily Jacobs, noticed her signal. Daniel sighed softly as Emily walked over. "Is everything all right, ma'am?" she asked. Patricia smiled faintly. "I think there's been a little mix-up. I believe this gentleman is in the wrong seat." Emily checked her tablet. "Actually, Mr. Stokes is in the correct seat," she said kindly. "You're in 2A, he's in 2B. Patricia blinked. "Oh, are you sure? I just assumed." "Yes, ma'am," Emily said, still smiling. Patricia forced a small laugh. "Well, mistakes happen." She turned toward the window, pretending to drop the matter, but she wasn't done. Daniel kept working, ignoring the tension. Emily moved away, and Patricia's irritation grew. Her fingers tapped against her knee, her breath uneven. He wasn't reacting. He wasn't even trying to explain himself. That made her angrier. She pressed the call button again. The soft chime brought Emily back. "Is there something I can help you with?" Patricia asked calmly. "I'd like to request a seat change." Emily tilted her head. "Is there a problem with the seat?" Patricia hesitated. "No, I just don't feel comfortable sitting here." Emily looked between them. Daniel paused his typing, but said nothing. "Let me check," Emily said, tapping her screen. Patricia sat still, lips tight. People around them began to notice. After a moment, Emily looked up. "I'm afraid first class is full, ma'am. I can check economy if you'd like." Patricia's face flushed. "Economy," she repeated softly. "That's not going to work." Emily smiled politely. "Then I'm afraid you'll need to stay in your assigned seat." Patricia gave a stiff nod. "Fine." Emily stepped away, and Patricia stared out the window, her thoughts racing. Daniel hadn't said a word, but soon, he wouldn't need to. He stayed silent, turned back to his laptop, and kept typing. That was it. That was his response. He was just going to pretend she didn't exist. Patricia's fingers curled into fists. This wasn't over. She exhaled sharply and pressed the call button again. This time, Emily hesitated before coming back. "Yes, ma'am." Patricia sat up straighter. "I need to speak to someone in charge." Emily's face stayed calm. "I'm the lead flight attendant on this flight. Is there something I can clarify for you?" Patricia's tone sharpened. "I need to speak to the head crew member, or the pilot." A soft murmur spread through the cabin. Someone let out a quiet laugh. Emily stayed professional, but her patience was thinning. "Ma'am, the pilot is preparing for takeoff and won't be available. But I'll do my best to help you." Patricia's jaw tightened. Daniel wasn't reacting. He wasn't nervous or defensive. It was like he'd done this before. Then she said the words that changed everything. "I don't feel safe." Emily froze. Her smile dropped, her body stiffening. Daniel stopped typing. Across the aisle, a man wearing a Bluetooth earpiece muttered, "Here we go again." Emily straightened. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Can you clarify what you mean?" Patricia folded her hands neatly in her lap, tilting her head. "I just don't feel comfortable," she said slowly, pausing just long enough to imply something without saying it outright. "I don't want to be difficult, but I think it would be best if someone else took this seat." Daniel closed his laptop. This time, he looked her directly in the eye. And for the first time, Patricia felt a flicker of doubt. But she wasn't letting go, not yet. Her voice grew louder, drawing the attention of nearby passengers. A hush fell over the cabin. The words "I don't feel safe" hung heavy in the air. Emily didn't move right away. Her posture stiffened, her eyes flicking toward Daniel, who now sat still with his hands on his laptop. He just stared at Patricia, saying nothing. Emily spoke carefully. "Ma'am, are you saying you feel threatened?" Patricia gave a small shrug. "I'm not saying that. I just don't feel comfortable. That's all." Across the aisle, the man with the Bluetooth scoffed. A young woman 3 rows back lifted her phone, pretending to text but clearly recording. Passengers whispered among themselves, glancing toward Patricia. She could feel the shift. People were turning against her. "This is a simple request," she insisted, trying to sound polite. "If I'm uncomfortable, I should have the right to move seats, shouldn't I?" Emily's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, there are no open seats in first class." Patricia's lips pressed together. "Then check coach." Emily hesitated. "There are 2 open seats in economy." Patricia straightened. "Perfect. He can take one of them." A ripple of murmurs spread through the cabin. Daniel took a slow breath, his fingers drumming once against the laptop before going still. He wasn't moving. He wasn't arguing. He just waited. Emily blinked, making sure she'd heard correctly. "Ma'am," she said firmly. "Just to confirm, you want me to move this passenger to economy because you don't want to sit next to him?" Patricia nodded once. "Yes." Emily inhaled deeply. "That won't be happening." Patricia's head snapped up. "Excuse me." Emily clasped her hands in front of her, voice steady. "Mr. Stokes has a first-class ticket, just like you. He is in his assigned seat. I will not ask him to move." Patricia's face burned. She could feel everyone watching. Some whispered. Some shook their heads. The young woman's phone was still recording. Patricia's voice cracked. "This is ridiculous. I'm just asking for the same courtesy as anyone else." Emily didn't budge. "You are asking me to remove a paying passenger from his assigned first-class seat for no valid reason. That is not courtesy, ma'am. That is discrimination." The cabin fell silent. Someone let out a low whistle. Daniel still hadn't moved. He just sat there, eyes on Patricia, calm and quiet. Patricia's pulse pounded. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Emily straightened her shoulders. "Ma'am, we're about to taxi. If you can't remain seated and follow flight crew instructions, I'll have to ask you to deplane." Patricia's mouth fell open. "What?" Emily's tone stayed firm. "You have 2 options, stay seated quietly, or deplane." But Mr. Stokes is not moving. A few passengers clapped softly. Patricia's humiliation rose like fire in her chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. She opened her mouth to argue, but then Daniel reached into his pocket. He pulled out a leather case, flipped it open, and held it up. Everything stopped. A gold FBI badge gleamed under the cabin lights. The air changed instantly. Passengers gasped. A few chuckled. The young woman recording zoomed in. Daniel's voice was calm, almost bored. "Ma'am," he said, tilting his head slightly. "Would you like to file an official complaint? I can take your statement right now." Patricia froze. Her breath caught. She couldn't speak. Daniel didn't blink, didn't move, just waited. For the first time, Patricia felt trapped. Truly trapped. The silence was heavy. Daniel's badge glinted under the lights, impossible to ignore. Around them, people stared openly now, some smirking, others wide-eyed. Patricia's mouth went dry, her mind scrambling for an explanation she didn't have. An excuse. A way out. This wasn't supposed to happen. The man she tried to get removed from the plane, the one she claimed made her feel unsafe, was a federal agent. Her throat tightened. Daniel's face didn't change. He wasn't angry or smug. He just sat there, holding his badge, eyes fixed on her. His voice was calm and steady. "Would you like to file an official complaint, ma'am?" The words hit like a punch. Patricia froze. Heat rushed up her neck. She tried to speak, but only a faint I came out. Daniel tilted his head slightly. "You said you felt uncomfortable," he said politely but sharply. "That's a serious accusation on a federal flight. If you believe I did something wrong, I can take your statement." Her stomach dropped. The power had shifted. A few minutes ago, she was in control. Now, she was the one being questioned. A man a few rows ahead laughed quietly. "Oh, this is priceless," he whispered. The young woman recording zoomed in. Emily, the flight attendant, stood nearby, arms crossed, waiting. Everyone was waiting. Patricia's breathing quickened. She couldn't admit she lied. But if she kept going, She'd be accusing an FBI agent of being a threat. That could destroy her. Her hands shook. Daniel hadn't looked away once. Finally, after what felt like forever, Patricia shook her head. No, she said softly. No complaint. Daniel nodded once, calm and certain. He closed his badge, slipped it back into his jacket, and opened his laptop again. Just like that, it was over. For him. For Patricia, it was only beginning. Some passengers clapped softly. The businessman smirked. The girl with the phone kept typing. Patricia's heart pounded. She wanted to disappear, to take it all back. But she couldn't. It was too late. People had seen it. They had recorded it. She looked around, hoping someone might defend her. No one did. Even Emily's kindness was gone. Patricia swallowed hard. The flight hadn't even left the ground, and she already knew she had lost. But this wasn't just embarrassment. Real consequences were coming. She sat stiffly, face burning. Daniel typed calmly beside her, like nothing happened. But the cabin hadn't forgotten. The businessman kept smirking. The young woman still had her phone raised. Even the flight attendants looked colder now. Emily stepped closer. Her voice was polite but firm. Ma'am, I need to confirm that you're okay to remain on this flight without further issues. Patricia wanted to protest but stopped herself. Daniel's badge had changed everything. I'm fine, she said quietly. Emily nodded. I'll hold you to that. Then she walked away. Patricia exhaled shakily. Maybe it was finally over. Then, ding. A phone chime broke the silence. Patricia looked up. The young woman with the phone smiled, tapped her screen twice. Patricia's stomach dropped. She knew that look. The video was online. She leaned forward, heart racing. The caption read, Racist woman tries to remove black man from first class, then learns he's FBI. Patricia's hands went cold. The flight hadn't even taken off, and her world was already crashing. Her phone buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times. She didn't want to look, but she did. Messages filled the screen. From friends, family, people she hadn't spoken to in years. Patricia, is this you? Tell me this isn't real. Oh my God, what did you do? Her hands trembled as she opened her browser. Patricia tapped on Twitter. It took less than a second. Her name was already trending. The video had been uploaded less than 5 minutes ago, and it had already been viewed over 20,000 times. Comments poured in. Patricia's vision blurred as she read the first few. Karma is real. This lady really thought she could get away with it. Hope she enjoys the internet roasting. She's about to get it. Her breath hitched. Her world wasn't just collapsing, it was burning. And for the first time, Patricia realized there was no coming back from this. She gripped her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. The cabin noise faded. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The video kept spreading. Each refresh brought more views. 30,000. 42,000. 61,000. It wasn't slowing down. She blinked rapidly, searching for a way out. But there was none. Comments kept pouring in. Imagine being this entitled. LMAO. She really thought she was going to get away with it. The FBI part made my day. Expose her name. We need to know who she is. Her chest tightened. She looked around the cabin, as if time could reverse itself. But nobody was looking. They'd all seen enough. Her body went rigid. Daniel still sat beside her, calm, fingers tapping on his laptop. If he knew about the video, he didn't show it. That made it worse. Her phone buzzed again. She flinched. It was her sister. She pressed decline with a shaky finger. Not ready. Not ready for any of this. The plane hadn't even taken off properly, and her world was already collapsing. She exhaled sharply, forcing herself to stay calm. She needed a plan. Apologize? No, that would just fuel the fire. Ignore it? Worse. Her mind raced. Then the pilot's voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we are beginning our descent into Washington, D.C. The local time is 5:43 p.m. Please ensure your seatbelts are fastened. Patricia's heart sank. Landing. She had been so focused on the chaos inside the plane that she had forgotten what awaited her outside. She refreshed the video one last time. 97,000 views. Her name trending. Her hands shook as she stuffed the phone back into her bag, trying to convince herself it might not be so bad. Patricia hoped the storm would pass, until she turned on the news. The second the doors opened, she practically bolted off the plane. She ignored the glances, the quiet chuckles, the judgment in the air. She just needed to get out. But at baggage claim, her pulse skipped. Reporters were waiting. Not a huge crowd, but enough. A woman in a navy blazer held a microphone, reading from her phone as a cameraman filmed. The now viral video shows an unidentified woman attempting to have an FBI agent removed from first class, citing discomfort. The clip has gained over 1 million views in just a few hours. Patricia stopped breathing. 1 million? Impossible. She turned her head, praying they hadn't seen her. But one reporter's eyes locked on hers. Wait, that's her. Panic surged. She spun, heels clicking against the tile. She needed to escape. Her phone buzzed violently in her purse. Missed calls, alerts. She couldn't outrun it. A taxi slowed at the curb. She nearly threw herself into the back seat. Go, she snapped. The driver raised an eyebrow but pulled away. Patricia pressed her hands to her temples, eyes shut. 1 million views. Her careful reputation, years of respect and influence, gone in a single afternoon. Her phone buzzed again. This time, an unknown number. Heart hammering, she swiped to answer. Hello. A clipped voice said. Miss Langford, this is James Rollins, chair of the Marston Foundation. I assume you're aware of the situation. Her mouth went dry. She had been on the board for years, a charity priding itself on inclusivity and ethics. She already knew what this call meant. We're going to need you to step down, he said, cutting her off. Patricia stared blankly. Not a request. An order. But this is being taken out of context. The board disagrees. Final, he interrupted. We'll issue a statement by morning. We expect your resignation by then. Click. She lowered the phone slowly. Her career, her reputation, gone. And no one cared about her explanation. The video said it all. Shaky, she exhaled. This wasn't something she could control. She had done this to herself. And now she had to live with it. Meanwhile, Daniel Stokes hadn't given her another thought. By now, he was probably in a meeting, calm, unbothered. This had been just another Tuesday for him. If this story made you think, don't forget to subscribe for more gripping real-life scenarios.